Okay, so moving along on the Mustang here. Now that I've got it running pretty good. Um, this thing had sat for a long time, and it previously had this Borgeson power steering aftermarket steering gear installed. And well, anyhow, if you look at the rag collar there, the rag joint, you can see what's happened there. And well, there's this large gap up here in between the steering wheel. Let's see if I can push on it here. And there we go. All right. And I believe what is supposed to happen now is there could be some things that went wrong with whoever installed this before. The length of the tube could be an issue, and the spring that's in between here, it could be too strong, too long, and pulling up on the shaft, which distorted and stretched that rag collar, so it tore it apart. So what we had was, you can see where it just, all of that came off. It had stretched and distorted that, zoom in on it, that collar so much that actually the rubber was doing all the work. It had pulled it beyond these pins here. So that was, the rubber was doing all the work, and it just ripped apart. And it had been sitting there for like 7 years, so I had a good long chance to find a new shape. So I'm gonna take all that apart and see what's going on now. Summit, which is reasonably close here in the Atlanta area, does have the kit for the rag collar. Okay, I've got this bad collar sort of reassembled outside of the car here just to show you what had happened. You can see this is the spring that lives up in the steering wheel housing right up at the top, and what that does is it's pulling this way. Let me point with something else. It's pulling that way, pulling away from the rubber up in the column. This attaches to the steering gear, and you can see what has happened here. This is supposed to be like this, and it was like this. So there's a rip right there. It just pulled this thing apart. So I've got some things to check. Let's see, my light is not handy. I need to check the length of the column and see how that was installed. And I might need to try to find another spring, or maybe I can cut a little bit off of this and shorten that spring. I don't know if that'll help, because the spring is still going to be just as strong, but it won't be able to push as long. So that's what's happening. This is getting held by the steering gear, and then this spring is pushing up on the top end and pulling, separating. Make a lot of checks and measurements and find out where this problem is so it doesn't happen again. Okay, looks like we are making some good progress here. So got the rag collar all assembled. This, as you can see, is now pushed down all the way like it should be. It was up, and this set screw was locked into the groove, which seems like the natural, obvious thing to do. But that, if you read the directions, no, this shaft needs to be a whole inch in the side of here. So the other thing I need to do now is, because you can see this is this set screw here, and again, this shaft needs to be all the way down in there, so it actually locks on the splines. But this shouldn't be up inside the tube, so I'm going to cut whatever amount I need to off the tube to clearance that nut. But still, the tube needs to be extending through on the bottom here, like at least a 1/16 of an inch or so. And that plate, there's supposed to be a plate, and I'll show you from the inside also where that's where it locks, or that's where it attaches. It's supposed to be a triangle shaped plate. I'll show you up on the parts picture for the kit. You know, again, when someone else installed this like 7-8 years, however long ago it was installed, it was not properly installed, so that's why we had all these problems. Another thing you can see is look where this brake line is in relation to that screw. That's not good, so I need to kind of move these brake lines around a little bit. And you know, I've already kind of pulled this one off because it was super close to the header, and I'd like to get it even farther away. Let's take a look inside. Okay, yeah, that triangle shaped piece with the big hole for heat is supposed to, the plate was supposed to be right here, and it was never installed. I went ahead and marked where my column is, and as you can see, there's a hole here in the bottom of this U-clamp that you know, kind of lets you know that overall the column's in the right place. And especially right here, we've got a good gap here, where before the gap was about the width of this right here. So it was up about 3/8 of half an inch. And so now we'll have functioning cancel cam, and you know, the horn did work, but man, you had to really hit it hard because it was spaced away so far. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this column out. Again, these are my references to let me know as I'm putting it in that I'm kind of in the zone. So we'll take this off, pull this out, get the column back out, disconnect the wires here, these connectors for the turn signal and brakes and everything. So it looks like this little rascal right here, this is that floor mounting plate, was never installed, never put in when this kit was first installed. Ideally need to get that in there as soon as possible. Okay, so did get the plate from Borgeson. This is the plate at the bottom of the firewall to support the bottom of the column here. So already went ahead and did it, but this comes as a long flat tang, and what you do is you know, this is going to be at the top. This is going to be at the top, so this is the bottom of the column. So you find out where that outside of the tube is on the top, make a mark, and then bend it over maybe just a little bit above that mark, and that's where a clamp is going to go to hold this in place so it isn't swimming around. And then this kind of hard rubber bushing goes in here. They didn't send, it was supposed to, oh, you know what, I can use that right there. It's supposed to send a sheet metal screw, so you drill and screw that in to hold this in place, and they forgot to do that. It wasn't in the kit. So anyhow, I need to cut this back a little bit more to make room. So this, when it's done, should be probably right about here, and that should give me the clearance I need. They have and the clearance I need, so it's not hitting on the top of the rag joint or that set screw. There is a procedure from start to finish, but you know, like I said, this was a improperly installed Borgeson kit. Everything is fine with the steering gear, just everything related to the column somebody did wrong a long time ago. So anyhow, if you're doing one from scratch, follow all the guidelines for the measurements. Coming back and having to kind of recreate this based on what I see and have. So I'm going to cut the tube right now. Okay, so there we go. Tube has been cut. Let's see, I cut that much off of it. And I'd actually made 2 cuts last week on it. Before I had this plate, I was going to try and fab something. And I went ahead and called, and they had a kit, and it was shipped and arrived the next day. So there's our bottom bushing in there, drilled a hole and put in that screw, and then the clamp, just a radiator clamp, will go around that. So I'll go ahead and get this back in. All right, so that's what that plate looks like when it's installed. So I'll go ahead and let's get the tube in here and get this thing together. All right, so that's what all that looks like. Let's see, can you see the oh yeah, there it is. It's right there. There's the tang that was bent over, and then that clamp goes to it, and then there's this cover that slides down, and we got a reasonably good gap. I opened it up just a little bit there, and I'm gonna leave it there. It's not rubbing, and our cancel cam is working. Yep, okay, that flipped down already, I didn't see it. So, yeah, that's what that looks like when it's all good. Not much to sit, it's so tight with the booster up underneath there, can't really show it, but yeah, let's try it. Maybe we can come in from this side. So yeah, that's what that looks like. I could actually cut just a teensy bit too much off that tube. I could lower, but that's going to open that gap. I'm going to leave it right where it is. So yeah, the tube should come just a little bit more through the bottom. Again, this was really hard to figure out how much to cut off because it was improperly installed, and the original measurements are gone that you had to use for a reference from the original box. So it was just kind of nibble a little bit, and that last cut I took off about 3/8, half inch, so maybe nibbled a little bit too much. So yeah, ideally that should stick through the bottom a little bit, but it is definitely held in place. Main thing is it's got clearance to the top of that rag collar right there, where before that set screw that you see right there, that was up inside the tube because the rag collar had just been pulled by that spring and expanded and went all the way up in there. So yeah, it was a bad situation. So if you enjoyed this video on repairing an improperly installed Borgeson aftermarket steering gear and modifying the column and correcting things when they weren't right, and this will help be a guide for you just installing it from scratch as well. Anyhow, so if you enjoyed it, go ahead and grab your bottom support collar and push that down on your like and subscribe button. Please comment and share, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.